basic cable debut of the Disney Channel in April 1983, The House of Mouse has used its family-oriented network to feature its best movie ideas that weren't quite ready for the silver screen. At first, the films were released under the name Disney Channel Premiere Films, but since 1997, they have been released under the banner Disney Channel Original Movie, or DCOM, up until 2022 when Disney Plus took up the mantle. Regardless of the term you use to describe these feature-length gems, they bring to the fore a feeling of intense nostalgia. Generations are defined by the DCOM movies of someone's particular childhood. As always, this led the great pop culture debate team to wonder, what is the best Disney Channel original movie? I'm on the brink of cluelessness with this topic. I'm your host, Eric Resniak. Please help me welcome my panelists for this episode. Mouseketeer roll call. She always comes back to us, just like Gabriella, every time she threatened to break up with Troy. It's Amma Marfo.
Thanks for the necklace. T is for Troy?
Well, T as in it's time to start the episode, but yeah. Our next panelist works his tail off every day. He's gonna bump the competition, blow them all away. It's Bob Erlenbach.
Ooh, gimme, gimme, shimmy, shimmy.
Caliente.
Suave.
I don't know what's going on. Next, interplanetary, megastellar, hydrostatic. Joelle Bodecker is here, and she's a DCOM fanatic.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Eric, you're my supernova girl.
Well, going supernova could explain my rapidly increasing mass. Finally, he wishes his house was run by Katie Seagal, or that he owned a house. It's Trey Radu Blackburn.
I'm ready for our AI overlords to put me on house arrest, Eric.
Oh my God, please just take over. AI overlords, I'm done. And in the producer booth, we have Curtis Creekmore monitoring us from Space Station 9. If you're curious about how we ended up with this Sweet 16, become a Patreon supporter of the podcast. And don't forget that you can head to greatpopculturedebate.com and find the listener bracket for this episode so you can play along with us at home. I do want to make clear that we are only considering movies that specifically fell under the Disney Channel Original Movies banner. And with that out of the way, our panelists, their heads in the game, and we're going to kick off these debates. First up, it was a unanimous victory for the original High School Musical, meaning that the panel really was in this together as it pushed the 13th year out of the competition. Did anyone want to say anything on 13th? The Amma, you had actually nominated it. Did you want to say something about it briefly?
So this has happened before where I have nominated something to kind of go in as a bonus pick and then it immediately went out against something very, very strong. So while I would love to be able to come in here and fight assiduously for 13th year when it's going up against High School Musical, there's simply no reason. We did our best 13th year, but it just wasn't going to happen.
Wasn't going to happen. You give it the old college try. All right, next, the majority of the panel thinks it's a bright idea to move forward with Smart House, but Bob finds something magical about Twitches. Bob, tell us why we must feel the fantasy with these tween witches. Hey, I just got that. Trey, tell us why it would be dumb to kick the personal applied technology of Smart House to the curb. Bob, please go first.
Yeah, so for some reason I have to defend Twitches, and nobody else is voting for Twitches, and I can't understand why, because Twitches is the film that stars Tia and Tamara Mowry. They are separated at birth, twins that are taken to the real world from a fantasy realm for their own safety, and they're separated and they reunite at their 21st birthday to find out that they're twin witches, as you pointed out, Eric. It's based on a book series. It's a lot of fun. I hadn't watched it in several years, and I rewatched it for this episode, and it's a lot more fun than I anticipated, or I had remembered, excuse me. But I just don't understand the Smart House love on this panel. I just think that the Smart House, they live in this smart house, and that's like, Alexa, I live in a house that's Alexa, basically. Wow, exciting. If you actually look at the house, it's not that exciting. Most walls are completely blank. Most of the acting is non-existent. I don't know. I don't have a great argument one way or the other because I feel like I'm outnumbered, but I just don't understand people loving Smart House. So
okay, so before we get to Trey's defensive, I want to check if he swayed anyone's opinions because I think it was 3-1. Amma, has he swayed you, or are you sticking with Smart House here?
I'm sticking with Smart House. Yes, I'm sticking with Smart House.
Joelle, has he swayed you?
My profusely shaking head would tell you he has zero chance of swaying my vote here.
Trey, is it okay if we hold your argument until round 2? Because I'm pretty sure you're going through.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just going to perform all of Slam Dunk to Funk.
No,
okay.
He's convinced. He's switching. He doesn't want to argue for Smart House. He's switching.
Argue about how bad the Twitches movie was with their hollow acting in that entire thing. Only thing I had going for it was
don't go to hollow acting when you're talking about Smart House.
I mean, they have Jocelyn Shit.
Jocelyn Shit.
That's about it.
With that being said, we are going to move Smart House into round 2. Cetus Lapidus, which is a thing that my friends told me I have to say on the script. Another unanimous victory aboard the Space Day with Zenon Girl of the 21st Century, meaning that, no lie, True Confessions was out of the bracket. Would anyone like to speak their piece about True Confessions? Amma, I think you had something you wanted to say about this.
Yeah, so most of the Disney Channel original movies are classified as a comedy. Sometimes they were offshoots of situation comedies, and then increasingly they got into musicals. There are a handful of dramas, and most of those dramas are bummers. And True Confessions is kind of a bummer. One of the twins of the pair is developmentally disabled, and it's about his sister kind of dealing with the ramifications of that. So independent of the conversations we would be having about the fact that Shia LaBeouf was playing a differently abled character, it's just a bummer. It is. So apologies to Shia LaBeouf, who did good enough acting given something he shouldn't have had to do. And Mare Winningham showing up at all, she didn't have to. We can let that go.
She's actually very good in it. Mare Winningham is.
Mare Winningham's always good. She brings it to you every ball. But I do want you at home keeping track of the number of big Hollywood names that we're going to be discussing that were involved in these movies. Like, these DCOMs legitimately were the bumper crop of 21st century Hollywood. So thank you very much, Amma. It was a great kind of farewell to True Confessions. Next, the panel is evenly split between 2 movies about special kids, The Descendants and Quints. Amma, tell us why Quints' 5 is worth fighting for. Joelle, explain why the Quints are rotten to the core by arguing for the next generation of Disney villains. I'm going to have Amma go first.
Okay, so Quints is an entry that I wanted to make sure we talked about because A, it is a Kimberly J. Brown non-Halloweentown film. But in addition to that, it's a little bit more of a grounded story, which is why it's challenging to have it going up against Descendants, which is so fantastical on so many levels. But it's essentially a young girl who had been an only child. Her parents love her. She loves her parents. And then her parents give birth to quintuplets. And it's her trying to recalibrate her life to be part of a family where they're getting so much attention because Quints being born is a really big deal. The whole city gets involved in her kind of adjusting to being an older sister to something so comparatively spectacular. I'm a big fan of it because it brings a lot of Canadian actors into the fore, including but not limited to Jake Epstein, who many of us know as Craig Manning from Degrassi, and Shadia Simmons, who was also on Life with Derek, a Canadian show that was on Disney Channel as well, and also Strange Days at Blake Halsey High, which is a very fun show that was on Discovery Kids at the time, is now streaming on Amazon. So as apparently secret Canadian, I tell people I'm Canadian, they're like, you are? As though they would just know by looking. Anyway, as a secret Canadian, I have to stump for those that give us high levels of representation. So I wanted to see Jake and Shadia in particular get recognized. So I love Quints. Descendants is fun, but this movie's doing something really different from that.
Awesome. Question, was Quints inspired by Octomom or John and Kate Plus 8 by any chance? Because I feel like
prior to both. It was prior to both.
The closest it would have been the McCoy septuplets from Des Moines, Iowa, that were born in 1997.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if anything, that would be the multiple thing they were going for. Trey, that's a good point.
This was a 2000 movie.
Thank you. Joelle, by the way, why don't you talk to us about The Descendants?
Well, first of all, I just need to say the Quints conceptually very memorable. It is not executed well even a little bit. It's terrible and hard to watch, and DNF on that one. Descendants, this is sort of one of those, juggernauts that DCOM put together. From concept alone, everyone was like, oh, I'm into this. I like this idea. The next generation of Disney villains. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it plays out. Oh, it's a musical? Cool. Oh, hey, Kristen Chenoweth is in it. I'm in. If you love Dove Cameron from Nickelodeon or whatever the hell she came from before this, then I'm in too. I didn't know who she was before this, but that's cool. There's lots of famous faces in this, lots of bops upon bops. The plot is as good as a DCOM plot can be. but it's really faithful to Disney lore. If you're into that sort of thing and you love to see some of the bits and bobs from old movies, it's going to show up in a museum in the movie. It's just so much fun. I'm not going to go too far because I suspect I don't need to sway the other two people on this panel.
Well, let's find out. Bob, where are you on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Descendants for now, and I agree with Joelle's assessment of Quints. The script is not strong. In the first line, she says, Quints, ooh, in a word, that's a lot of kids. Well, that's 5 words. That's not 1 word. That's 5 words. Anyway, yeah, Descendants.
Trey, where are you on this one?
I was with Quints on this, but you're right. It's just it's not wonderful. While Descendants is not one of my favorite DCOMs, or anywhere near the middle, even probably, I'm going to switch my vote over to Descendants.
All right, so we will be moving Descendants on into round 2. Thank you very much, Amma, for the defense of Quints. Next, the majority of our Soul Skaters think Brink is pretty gnarly, but Joelle is enlisting her support in Cadet Kelly. Bob, explain to us why skating is what we do and not who we are, and grind for Brink. Joelle, tell us why you have a military-industrial complex for Cadet Kelly. Joelle, please go first.
I don't know that I'm not surprised I have to defend this. I didn't love Brink. It just wasn't, for lack of better words, my jam. I know there are lots of jams in it. Cadet Kelly, on the other hand, I stand for Hilary Duff. I still do to this day. Loved her in Younger, and the one that was not How I Met Your Mother, the other one.
How I Met Your Father.
The father one, yes. No, I just, something about Hilary Duff, she's always just been a beloved Disneyer and then beyond. This movie also features another beloved Disney Channel-er, Christy Carlson Romano. If you haven't followed her on TikTok, you are missing out on lots of fun content. The movie might not be appealing to lots of people. It really is sort of a story of the military-industrial complex. However, add ribbon dancing and you make it better. And that's really the story of Cadet Kelly. It is how ribbon dancing can make the military more fun and whimsical. Amongst other things, it's anti-authoritarian messages all over the place. It's, 2 women learning how to actually get along through the art of dance and shuffling with rifles. We have Andrea Lewis Hazel from Degrassi present. We have the adorable Shawn Ashmore at his young, adorable age. We also have Gary Cole there, who's, he's everywhere. He's that guy, right?
Yep.
It's a fun cast. It's a fun story. Despite all the military stuff, Hilary Duff makes it watchable. She makes it a delight to slog through military and find all the ways she can show joy to all of these buttoned up people.
Excellent. Bob, talk to us about Brink.
I loved Brink, and it's probably not for everybody. To Joelle's point, because of the subject, it's about inline skating and skaters, and really that very 90s Tony Hawk skater culture of its time. But it is a very early DCOM, and it was one of those real first DCOM hits. Brink, it was everywhere when it came out. It was the one they pushed. It was without the music, it was the high school musical of its time. It was the one everyone was talking about. It had the adorable Eric Von Detten in it, adorable to me at least. But it's about inline skating. It is based, oddly enough, on an 1865 novel called Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates.
Is that actually true?
That is 100% true. Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates, where it's a man who lives in an impoverished family, and he tries to do skating to help support his family, which is exactly what happens in Brink. But Brink is a lot of fun, high energy, real aggressive skating film. Really, really, I think well acted even as well. And it really teaches and shows a lot about friendship and the choices you make as a child, and the choices you make as being part of a family, etc. But at the end of the day, it's just a lot of fun to watch. They have some really great skating. It's clear Tony Hawk is doing some stunts in this film as Brink. I don't know if I have to say much more to sway. I think we're pretty much leaning that way, but that's really my intro there for Brink.
Yep, I screwed up. I should have just gone to votes instead of having you do your argument. I'm sorry, Trey. I cut you off the first round. But Amma, are you sticking with Brink, or are you going with Cadet Kelly here?
I am sticking with Brink. We had a rabid Eric Von Detten fan in my house in the form of my younger sister. So we watched this movie a lot. Yeah, it hit at the right time. I grew up in a place where we were rollerblading a lot. I still rollerblade, like, to this day. I'm going to go tomorrow if it's nice out. So yeah, this one definitely had its impact for sure.
Awesome. And Trey, are you sticking with Brink? Or are you going to go to Cadet Kelly?
As much as I was a stan of Christy Carlson Romano, I've got to keep my vote with Eric Von Detten. Sorry, I mean Brink on this one.
So I don't know any of these movies, and when I saw the name Cadet Kelly, well, when I saw the poster, I thought it was basically the DCOM version of Private Benjamin, which starred Goldie Hawn from the 1980s. Does everybody remember that movie? Am I wrong in that assumption? Is it basically
No, wouldn't that have been fun, though? Oh, my gosh.
That's what I always assumed the movie was. And then when I saw Brink, I thought it was a biopic about David Brinkley, the renowned journalist. But apparently it's from an 18th century thing about ice skates. And it's moving into round 3 or 2, whatever round we're moving into. So congratulations. We'll move Brink ahead. Next, the panel is seasonally split between Halloweentown and Teen Beach Movie. Amma, explain to us why the bus is still run into Halloweentown. Trey, tell us why we are cruising for a bruising if we don't vote for Teen Beach Movie. Trey, please go first.
Sure. When I first filled out my bracket, I was on Halloweentown 100% on this one. And then I watched Teen Beach Movie, which I hadn't seen before, and I immediately fell in love. Like, from the moment that Brady and Mac, our couple, enter the wacky world of Wet Side Story after being swept away from Barry Bostwick in a storm. Sold. The movie knows exactly what it is. It's camp. It's silly. It's a little bit dumb, but the cast and the script revel in it. The villains are a little underdeveloped, so we're not going to talk about them, kind of like how the movie doesn't talk about them. But it's forgiven because the teens in the movie are giving their best greaser impressions, their best surf movie impressions, and they're not judging how silly they are, which some teen movies can do when they're just getting out of hand with how silly it is. The music's way more pop than it is like musical. Like when you talk about like High School Musical, that music really feels theatrical to me. But this was very much pop. We're getting ready to push it onto Disney Radio. But I'm not mad at that. As a homosexual, I can't believe that I'm going to vote for Barry Bostwick over Debbie Reynolds in this one. But I am surf crazy for this movie, and I was grinning the ear the entire time.
Thank you very much. Amma, talk to us about Halloweentown.
First of all, I did not realize how much I was going to apparently be caping for Kimberly J. Brown this evening. That was not my goal when I got here. But one thing I will say is, to that point about having like a cast or like a set of movies that's popular from like when you watch DCOMs, Teen Beach Movie for me is just outside of the era of where I was watching them generally. But I also think that DCOMs by that point had evolved into having a different goal. So Trey, to your point about the idea that that music sounded like it was ready for Disney Radio, that's because that's what those movies were at that point. It was a mechanism by which to showcase the stars that were on their TV shows and to bring radio music like music into radio for rotation. So it had a different goal. So between those two things, I do still want to kind of give some love for Halloweentown because, again, it was one of those originals that kind of blew up. It's become a thing that now a lot of people incorporate into their Halloween traditions. Again, the Debbie Reynolds of it all, but also just the fact of, like, again, Halloweentown might not be the better movie, but it's the one that I think, at least for the standpoint of those of us who voted for this from that age bracket, might stand out a little bit more. So it is a sentimental choice, I can admit that. But it's also one that it just feels right to advance forward.
We say this on this podcast all the time when it comes to the nostalgia topics. You cannot underestimate the power of sentimentalism. And it's not in any way to be dismissive. Like, these things have a hold on you that exceeds their merits, if that makes sense. Bob, where are you on this one?
So I love Teen Beach Movie. I initially voted for it, but on my rewatch for this, I actually found a new fondness in what I feel importance of Halloweentown to Disney Channel original movies. Teen Beach Movie gives us Ross Lynch, Garrett Clayton, and Jordan Fisher in this machine to produce stars and music, but Halloweentown is the heart of DCOM, and I think that's why I'm switching my vote over to the Halloweentown.
Okay, Joelle, what about you?
I was going to say more on Halloweentown, but I think we have a 3-1 here, so I don't have to say much today or in this round. But yeah, very much Halloweentown. Teen Beach Movie it's great. I found it not super rewatchable.
All right, so we will be moving Halloweentown into round 2. Teen Beach Movie has been pulled out to see. Next, the panel is currently leaning toward the Cheetah Girls, but Joelle is mystified by that choice and instead wants to literally get a clue. Bob, tell us why the party's just begun for the Cheetah Girls and why it should strut forward. Joelle, drop hints on why we should keep clue. Joelle, please go first.
I understand why Cheetah Girls is where it is, and I don't think I'm going to sway votes, but I'm going to try anyway because the Lindsay Lohan of it all. Get a clue is, okay, take Legally Blonde and Clueless and merge them together into a very cheap but adorable DCOM. And it's just a fun watch. There's all these great adult characters that, like, specifically like famous character actors just running around this movie. You have Brenda Song in one of her first roles, I believe. And Bug Hall, not his first role. We all remember him from The Little Rascals. The three of them and the other kid whose name I don't remember make a really fun cast. They're very creative. There's the nerdy tech sister that helps them solve things in the background. I love a kid sister. Maybe that's my own vibe. You'll see that bias later on, I think. I think this movie is a great one to just watch and watch again. And if it doesn't go forward, people just need to remember it exists and enjoy the 2002 height of New York fashion. Ooh. All the tinted sunglasses your heart can find.
I still wear them. I regret nothing. Has she swayed anyone? Trey, are you sticking with, it was the Cheetah Girls?
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Cheetah Girls on this one.
Okay, and what about you, Bob? Sticking with Cheetah Girls?
Yeah, I was supposed to argue it, but I obviously don't think I need to. But we haven't talked a lot about Rubric just yet. And one of the things I think about with DCOMs and Rubric is whether or not it had a significant pop culture impact. And that's majorly why I swayed and stuck with Cheetah Girls for this one. So Cheetah Girls.
All right, Amma, are you sticking with Cheetah Girls?
I am. Bob, I did have a similar piece on my rubric about what has been the lasting impact of movies. And in many ways, that's kind of unfair because some of the newer ones don't necessarily have the opportunity to do that. But in this instance, it's a little bit more one-to-one on that front.
Great. Okay, well, so we will be moving the Cheetah Girls into round 2. Finally, in round 1, the panel is leaning towards zombies shambling forward. But, oh, brothers, Amma thinks we should book another trip to Camp Rock. Amma, light a fire for Camp Rock and don't let this be its final jam. Trey, tell us why ditching zombies would be brainless. Amma, please go first.
I don't expect to win this one. This is, again, one of those things that is something from a very specific time going up against something that's a little bit closer to the current machine that they have going now. So closer to like a Descendants or even a High School Musical, where it's been franchised in such a way that it just kind of, the long-term impact of that one's probably going to be bigger than Camp Rock, believe it or not. But if we're talking about stars that it was able to launch, it did continue Demi Lovato's dominance, I think we can say, given what was going on with Sunny with a Chance, combined with the lasting impact of the Jonas Brothers. They already had a show on the network at this point. And actually, now I don't remember if the show came after the movie. It might have. Someone can check me on that. I don't recall. But point is, it was an opportunity to kind of blow up these stars who, again, for our age group, kind of have a lasting impact. So for that reason, I did want to speak on it. But I'm also okay if it goes out in the strong because of that era of them. It's honestly one of my least favorites.
Okay. Did she sway anybody here? But actually, you know what, Trey, go ahead and talk to us about zombies because I cut you off on your first argument and I want you to have something.
No, it's totally fine. I don't mind it. Zombies, it's cute. It's got that classic Romeo and Juliet, but with more xenophobia than Romeo and Juliet gives to you because they're different than us. We've got to shun them from town. Zombies have been tamed with their Z-bands that they learned how to manipulate so that way they can still be stronger, more brutish to be able to win the game. And we've got like Zed the zombie falling in love with Addison, the normal human, except our normal human has a secret that her parents really want to keep a secret. We don't need to see her white hair at all. It's got a good heart and it's got some good fun pop songs. And truly, I'm also a little bit voting for zombies over the fact that Camp Rock's the only one of these on the rewatch or a first watch that I just didn't finish. I was kind of bored by Camp Rock, so I voted for zombies on this one.
Okay. Joelle, where are you landing on this one?
I fully rewatched Camp Rock this morning. The haircuts alone make it not worthy of a rewatch. It was horrendous, the hair. Whereas zombies, at least the hair is intentionally weird and bad and strange. Yeah, I'm not for camp rock. I never was, but I wanted to give it a try. There's exactly one song that's great, and the rest are terrible. So.
In a Jonas Brothers movie? Because I have to say,
they only sang one song. So,
because I genuinely like the Jonas Brothers even now. Like I genuinely like their music. So
if you go to the Spotify playlist for Camp Rock, you will find that one song has 147 million listens, and the rest have 20,000.
None.
And thank you for reminding me. We are going to put together a playlist to go along with this episode of DCOM songs. So you will find that on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com. Bob, where are you on this one? Zombies or Camp Rock?
Camp Rock was a DNF for me as well. Like, it's very aggressive. All of the things we've been saying, that it's just after the star making, the music making, the cash grab. Like, people are going to watch this because it has these people in it, right? It's just really aggressive in that way. It doesn't really have the heart of something like Zombies, which is a really fun, original idea. Yes, it is. Zombies are not original, but this is a fun play on zombies. And it has Milo Manheim, who can call me anytime he wants.
All right, so it sounds like Zombies will be moving on to round 2, and that's the end of round 1, folks. Us Disney adults are going to take a quick break to toilet paper the Nickelodeon studios and blame it on PBS Kids. We'll be right back after these messages.
Psst. Hey, need more pop culture content? Are you jonesing for another hit of nostalgia? Like a back alley crack dealer, the Great Pop Culture Debate has you covered. After you've listened to this week's episode, head over to the bonus section on greatpopculturedebate.com and check out our top 10 lists, the perfectly satisfying nibble of related content that will keep you coming back for more. Disagree with our rankings? That's okay. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion.
And we are back for round 2 of our Best Disney Channel Original Movie Debate. Before we get to the Elite 8, I want our panelists to share their social media accounts, what else they're working on, and also, if they can remember what their first DCOM was. I'm going to start with Amma.
So I am on, most actively, Instagram and YouTube at Amma Marfo. I have a half-hour comedy special on my YouTube channel. Please watch it. It was a lot of fun to make. It's called Enjoy Your Nachos. And as far as things that I'm working on, I'm always telling jokes, generally in the New England area, but occasionally we'll travel other places to do them. I'll be wearing a silly t-shirt. Come see a show. We'll have a lot of fun.
You should. And what was your first DCOM?
My first DCOM that I remember was Zenon. We were a big Raymond Simone household, thanks to her prior work in The Cosby Show, as well as hanging with Mr. Cooper. So when they were like, oh, she's going to be in a Disney movie, hell yeah, all the way in.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Bob, talk to us. What are your social accounts? What else you're working on? And what's your first DCOM?
Yeah, you can find me at DisnerdBob. Disney reference there. DisnerdBob on pretty much any social. You can find me there with that handle. I'm not working on much, just this podcast. Working on some blogs for the website as well, which you should go to. We'll be launching a new website soon, maybe even, I don't know when this will be
up by the
dropped.
time
It'll be up. It's up, guys. It's the now. So
we are Zenon. We are the girl of the 21st century.
Exactly. And keeping in theme with Amma, Zenon and Brink, but mostly Zenon made me mostly aware of Disney Channel original movies. And I wasn't a Raven Simone household. I do love Raven Simone, but we were a Days of Our Lives household, and Kirsten Storms plays Zenon, who played Belle Brady, Marlena in John Black's Love Child. Anyway, I'll tell you that another time.
That's a story for another time, children. Well, thank you very much, Joelle. What are your socials? What are you working on? And what's your first DCOM?
Socials, not super exciting, but if you want to follow my other podcast, The Pocket Pod, we're at The Pocket Pod and all the places where we have socials. Not all of them, some of them. What am I working on? I'm working on that on that website too. It's happening. I can't wait for people to see it in sometime soon or now. As for my first DCOM, I thought it was Smart House, but as I look at the dates, I think it was Brink. But the one that really sticks in my head as my first one was Smart House. And then I must have gone backwards or whatever. So, yeah.
See, Smart House is sticky. All right. Very interesting. Trey, what are your socials? What else are you working on? And your first DCOM?
I'm going to stick on the theme here and not working on much else right now. 2024 is kind of a rebuilding year. My socials are, you can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky sometimes at TKRB and then the word 3. You can also follow me at Bare Left Embroidery over on Instagram. And my first DCOM, I'm just a broken record. Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century is the one that really stuck in my head as my first.
And, that is so Raven. I feel like we're looking into the future of this particular podcast episode. So just putting that out there.
Eric, a Disney Channel reference. That's
amazing.
amazing.
But I got that Disney Channel reference because of Drag Race, so it doesn't count. And you can find me at Eric Resniak on Instagram, or just message at Great Pop Culture Debate on Insta and TikTok, or at GPCD on Mastodon. We're also on Blue Sky. We're on some other things, Threads. But what you really need to do right now is to sign up for our weekly newsletter, new every Monday at noon, which tells you about everything new in pop culture that week. Sign up by finding the link on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or via the link tree on any of our social media accounts. Now that that's out of the way, let's move on to round 2 and get moving on with these debates so we can check out of the Tipton on time. First up, the panel is currently leaning toward another encore for High School Musical, but Trey continues to invest in Smart House. Trey, tell us why Smart House is jumping. Bob, explain to us why we finally found what we've been looking for with High School Musical. Trey, please go first.
So I don't think I'm going to sway any hearts on here, but I have hope that Bob will find his and come over to my side on this one. Because it is hard to be the juggernaut of High School Musical, but I honestly just like Smart House better. Because that arc that we go through, because there is an arc, Bob, I don't care what you say, with the family, mirrored so many divorced kids or single parent household kids, because the mom is no longer around. Especially as the dad started dating again. Dad starts to date the creator of Smart House. And Ben, who is Ryan Merriman, and Ryan Merriman is one of our DCOM stars. He's got at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head that he stars in. So Smart House is about a teenager who wins a fully automated dream house in a competition on the newfangled internet. But soon the computer that controls it begins taking over because Ryan Merriman teaches it to be more of a housewife, like a 50s style. And Pat, the personal applied technology, goes a little haywire, comes out in the form of Katie Seagal to put the ever-loving scared bejesus in them. Also, what 90s kid did not want to have a house that cleaned up after their parties? All of us do. Also, Entertainment Weekly listed Smart House as the #1 best DCOM twice. So High School Musical was, I think, #5 on that list. So just because of that, I really think at least Bob should switch his vote over to me.
Interesting. I think, Joelle, you wanted to say something on Smart House as well, right?
I did, yeah. There is something about a movie about the future that feels like it could be now that is very exciting. To the point where I had Smart House in my head for this came out in 1999, for the last 20x years, so that by the time I had a house, you better believe we were smartifying it everywhere. We have smart locks and smart lights, and we have Google Homes in every room.
Yeah. So that being said, are you switching your vote to Smart House?
I'm not switching. I just really wanted to talk about it because Bob said very mean things about it in the first round, and I wanted a chance to defend it before we said goodbye to it, because High School Musical absolutely needs to go forward.
All right. Amar, are you going with Smart House, or are you sticking with High School Musical?
I'm sticking with High School Musical, but I also want to talk about Smart House.
Go for it.
Very quickly. One thing I will say is that the woman who's the creator of the Smart House that the dad is dating is Jessica Steed, who ordinarily is relatively unremarkable, but she is a canonical woman in STEM, as she also plays an astronaut in another great but not good movie, Armageddon. So I needed to get that off my chest. With that said, at an age I was far too old to do so, I learned a lot of dances from High School Musical. So I have to cape for it on behalf of my joints, who would really rather I didn't do that.
Everybody dance soon. Every person dance soon. That's what it is. Bob, I know that you're a huge Smart House fan, so I'm assuming you're sticking with Smart House.
I don't want to diminish by any stretch the story of Smart House with regards to the pieces that Trey brought up regarding divorced parents, whatever. The story is really not the issue. It's the quality of the filmmaking, the quality of the budget, just the quality overall of it. Didn't seem to be given an awful lot of breathing room or space to be spectacular in those regards. The story is not the problem. One thing I also want to say about DCOM really quickly is that DCOMs in general did a really great job of identifying sections or populations of maybe underrepresentation, whether it be cultural representation or just representation of divorced families, children who all of a sudden have 5 siblings, as well as the cultural representation. Johnny Tsunami, Wendy Wu, I think, is also
Wendy
Disney,
Wu.
if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Disney found those little sections and they're like, we can make this work. We can find a voice for these people, but also make money off of it because it's Disney. But so that's that. I'm sticking with High School Musical.
Thank you very much. And we will be moving High School Musical into the final 4. Next, the future, or I guess the present, continues to look stellar for Zenon Girl of the 21st Century, as our panel unanimously felt that Descendants was just too inky and kicked it out of our bracket. It is surprising to me, I will say, as someone who knows nothing, who has not watched any of these movies, that the Descendants, which has 3 sequels, at least a spin-off series, am I right? Like a huge, like, Disney IP juggernaut is getting the old boot against Zenon. But like, Field, you all have, I mean, what, 3 out of 4 of you mentioned that Zenon was your first DCOM?
Yeah, and I again, too, I genuinely wonder what this would look like if the age bracket of who was voting on this shifted in either direction, because I would say Descendants probably culturally has had the bigger influence, and yet, because we're of the age where Zenon hit, like, at just the right time, in this instance, it will come out ahead. So that, I think, is also interesting to consider.
100%. Yes, Joelle?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on these different eras, because the eras that we are most like connected to is that very first original launch era, which was the first 10 or 12 DCOMs. And then they like went into dabble in weird crap for about 10 years, or no, just 2 years, but they made 40 in 2 years. And that's how you know that they're bad. And then they started doing musicals, and then they started doing sequels, and then they got to the high concept musical era. And that's where Descendants fits in. And they did a lot really quickly in that period of time. So while we love Descendants, we also love some of the other ones that happened. And they're not as sticky as those original 10, I would say.
Great. All right. So we will be moving Zenon into the final 4. Next, the panel is currently split between Brink and Halloweentown. Amma, please stump for Team Pup and Suds. I think that's what the cool kids call it. And pull the other panelists over the brink. Joelle, why is Halloweentown all treat and no trick? I'm going to have Amma go first, please.
So I think Brink occupies a really exciting space because in some ways it kind of spans the transition from a lot of the live action Disney kids sports movies into the DCOM era. So even though something like the Mighty Ducks or the Big Green wasn't DCOM era, a lot of us who grew up on those movies and came to really love them then kind of came into Brink a couple of years later, and it felt like a really nice natural progression. At this point, they were making movies where, yeah, they were elevating some of the stars that had done some other Disney movies. Eric Von Detten had done Escape from Witch Mountain, which was a kind of Wonderful World of Disney remake from their original one, and then came into this space. And Patrick Levis, who had been he also did Miracle in Lane 2, which is a different DCOM, was on So Weird. Christina Vidal was like the girl of the skating gang and is also not only well known for Taina, that was on Disney, but is doing exceptional work from one of my TV picks from last year, Primo, on Freevee. So there's just so much talent in this. Sam Horrigan, who was in Little Giants, plays the villain in this as well. And the villain Escape from Witch Mountain. Yeah, so a lot of this was people who like worked together, had a really interesting rapport, and then it just tied into kids' sports movies, just kept that energy going, and there's just so much to love about it. And I do love Halloweentown, but as a kid who loved those sports movies so much, being a girl who didn't have a lot of girlfriends who also played sports, this was something that kind of stuck with me. So again, the literal lifetime rollerblader, again, I will go tomorrow, has to pick Brink for this.
Great arguments. Joelle, talk to us about Halloweentown.
Yeah, those are great arguments. I want to add that Walter Emmanuel Jones was also in Brink, who is the Black Ranger, the original Black Ranger.
Yes, thank you.
And I know Christina Vidal from Life with Mikey, which is one of my favorite movies of my childhood. It was a who's who rewatching that movie. Halloweentown certainly is a who's who of where's Debbie Reynolds right now. She's just, well, I don't mean in a sad way. I mean like in the movie, where is she? When will she be back
I was
on
like,
screen?
I can answer that question for you, and I don't want to.
I don't want to hear it again. No, Halloweentown became a franchise. It was, I think, one of the first movies to really go as far as it did. They even made a We Don't Talk About Fourth movie where they recast a certain Kimberly J. Brown, which is heresy, and we just don't talk about it. But they built a world. They built a world based on very weird, awkward prosthetic face masks. This little family that is learning how to navigate this universe. They're learning that they have special powers. They're learning how to harness their special powers. Little sister energy on this one too. The little sister is the smartest member of the family and does solve all the problems. And the only other thing I will say is that the music of this movie is by Mark Mothersbaugh, and we don't want to not acknowledge how awesome the music is. Like every little score in the background is just a little bit of a ditty bop, and I'm here for it.
All right. Well, Trey, where are you on this one? It's either Halloweentown or Brink.
These are both early DCOMs, if we talked about both that I loved, but I think I'm going to have to give this one to Brink.
Thank you. And Bob, where are you?
Both great DCOM films. Halloweentown, to me, leans a little bit more family holiday, where your whole family would want to or would watch Halloweentown, versus Brink is just for me. It's just for the kids. It's DCOM in that regard, and I think that's really important, an important distinction between these two. So that, for those reasons, I'm going with Brink.
Okay, so we have 3 for Brink, and that means it will go into the final 4. Finally, in round 2, it looks like a unanimous decision for the Cheetah Girls, which chased the flesh-crawling zombies right out of this bracket. And with that, we have our final 4. We're going to charge our wands to trace Mickey ears in the air. We'll be right back after these messages. Do you suffer from phomophobia? That's the fear of missing out on important events that connect you to the world. You don't want to be the only person at work not talking about the most recent episode of the show everyone's dying to watch, right? Why not sign up for the Great Pop Culture Debate's free weekly newsletter? You'll get a curated list of upcoming releases in TV, music, film, and games, so you'll never be left out of the conversation. Avoid the FOMO. Head to greatpopculturedebate.com and subscribe today. And we are back with the final 4 of our Best Disney Channel Original Movie Debate. At this point in the show, I always like to take a step back and decide if it matches up with where I thought we were going. I had no idea because I don't know this topic, but based on the conversation, it feels to me like these are the ones. Brink might be the one surprising one, but the rest of them, I think, are all kind of top-tier DCOMs, I think. Does that seem right to my panelists? Yes, I'm seeing a lot of
I don't think Brink is a surprise at all.
Okay.
I think Halloweentown is just really on that cusp, on that edge.
Got it.
This was my final 4, so I feel great. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that for you, Amma. All right, so let's start up. We're going to go around the horn. It's High School Musical versus Zenon Girl of the 21st Century. Because I always do this to Amma, I'm going to give her a break. I'm going to start at the back of the pack this time. Trey, High School Musical or Zenon?
I'm going with Zenon on this one. Like, Cetus to Petus, I don't know how you don't vote for Zenon. I do. High School Musical is lovely. But as, like, 3 of the 4 of us did say, Zenon is what was our first, like, touchstone of the DCOMs. It's a fish out of water story where you've got Zenon literally being grounded and sent to Earth because she's just too much trouble to deal with on the space day. It talks about the horrors of capitalism and trying to demolish the space day just for the insurance money. You've got Protozoa with honestly one of the greatest DCOM songs, I think, with Supernova Girl. I think it's just a really lovely... I think it's also based on books, but I can't remember that at the moment. But it's Zenon for me, forever.
Joelle is shaking her head. Zenon is based off of another story?
Yeah, or either a series, but definitely Zenon, the literal title, Girl of the 21st Century, is the first book it's based off of.
Great. And where are you voting on this one? Is it High School Musical or Zenon for you?
You're voting on my heart at this moment, because I actually don't care about the other side of this bracket, and these would be final 2 for me, 100%. Yeah. I love Zenon so much. It has absolutely been. It's like when you say DCOM to me, what is the best DCOM? It is Zenon, and then it's High School Musical in that order. So I think I have to go with my heart on this, and it's Zenon, but I would respect a High School Musical on this one too.
Okay, Bob, Zenon versus High School Musical.
Joelle's right. This is actually final two. It's unfortunate they're on the same side of the bracket. In many ways, both of them defined DCOMs for their era. I will talk about High School Musical, but I'm kind of undecided in this moment. High School Musical is the most commercially successful DCOM there's ever been.
Sure.
Multiple sequels, including a cinematic release sequel, a ongoing series, which I think just wrapped, so not ongoing, the High School, the musical, the series. Stage productions. Name me a high school that has not put on High School Musical. It is a cash cow for Disney, and it launched to superstardom multiple people, including one of the biggest, medium biggest Hollywood stars in Zac Efron right now. It premiered. It was the largest premiere that the channel has had for one of these films at 7.7 million viewers. The soundtrack is nothing but bops and had a number 4 Hot 100 Billboard hit with Breaking Free. Rotten Tomatoes has a quote in that it is brazenly saccharine, but it makes up for it with what is memorable tunes, eye-popping choreo, and an appealing cast. This is Kenny Ortega at his finest, directed and choreographed, I believe, choreographed Dirty Dancing, if you want to go back that far. Kenny Ortega is phenomenal, a great filmmaker and just a great guy all around. It's got a lot going for it, but when you come back around after we talk to Amma, but I might have a wishy-washy back and forth on my vote.
Okay, Amma, where are you on this one? Is it High School Musical or Zenon?
I think Bob is absolutely right in the sense that of the eras of DCOM, each of these have come to define their specific eras. Like when we were first thinking about the idea of what a DCOM would be, Zenon came out and immediately that was what you thought of. At the same time, because High School Musical was so successful upon its release, it's now kind of come to define the form. And again, to the point where it has, in a prior episode that many of us were on that got very emotional, one argument that was made was that something could be considered out of the conversation or that it was okay to eliminate it because it transcended the form by which it was presented. And in High School Musical, because it spawned worldwide tours, because it spawned a theatrical release, I'm comfortable letting that go because Zenon is a DCOM, Disney Channel original movie, and it stayed within the context of Disney Channel. Whereas High School Musical, I have conversations with people every now and again that are like, oh, it wasn't in theaters? And I'm like, only the third one, because I'm a pedantic asshole, as you all well know. So when it comes to this specific argument, I'm going to come down on the side of Zenon, loving both with all my heart, but recognizing that for the specific categorization, Zenon comes out ahead.
I love the loophole you just gave us. I love that for us.
That was beautiful,
That was
Emma.
really
Thank you.
good. Bob, where are you coming down on this one?
Yeah, I'm giving it to Zenon on this one because without Zenon, and Brink, we'll get there, but Brink, we're not there yet. But without Zenon, we wouldn't have a lot of the rest of this. It really built the brand from the ground up. So I'm with Zenon.
So that's a clean sweep. Before we let High School Musical go, I do want to, you mentioned Zac Efron, but it's important to understand what an incubator for stars this was. It wasn't just Efron. Vanessa Hudgens, Corbin Bleu, Ashley Tisdale. Who am I forgetting?
It spawned a bunch of different stars across a bunch of different media. Vanessa Hudgens did music, could continue if she wanted.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will say every time I see Vanessa Hudgens show up in something, she's excellent. She was great in Tick, Tick, Boom. She was very good in the Grease Live where she was Rizzo. Like consistently excellent, and I think she deserves more credit. But with that being said, High School Musical is out. We're going to go to the next matchup. It's Brink versus the Cheetah Girls. This time I'm going to start with Amma.
Slight edge to Brink, which is actually really difficult for me personally because I think it comes up against like the sports part of me versus the identity part of me, and I want to be the person that capes really hard for the movie with the black women, and I love it. I love them both. But ultimately, Brink, I think, again, is the sentimental favorite for me here.
All right. Bob, where are you on this one?
I'm going to lean Brink. We haven't really talked about Cheetah Girls, and what I think I liked about Cheetah Girls and what I think is great about Cheetah Girls is it's one of the things about DCOM, and it's part of my rubric for many of them, is that it takes these little nuggets of an idea of like a kid would really love to be part of this girl group that would go big, or they'd love this smart house that does all of these things for them. It takes like these very simple concepts of things that kids aspire to or hope for or dream about and builds these movies around them. And I think that's what Cheetah Girls does in some regard, is like it's these girls in a pop group that, have success, etc. And it's like, oh gosh, I just want to be, go to school with my girlfriends, but also have a pop group on the side. So I like that for Cheetah Girls, because I think it brings to life that part of the DCOM milieu, so to speak. But similar to the argument I just made about Zenon, Brink is just what I guess we're just full of primacy arguments here, right? It's just one of those films that really sets the table for where this genre will go. So I'm going to give it to Brink. Shout out to Raven Simone, her second representation on this list.
Going to say it's Raven Simone's time to shine. I do want to know, Joelle, I'm going to throw it to you for your vote in a second. Was the Cheetah Girls inspired by the Josie and the Pussycats movie? To me, it felt like, well, we don't have Josie and the Pussycats as a property, but let's make our Josie and the Pussycats. Am I wrong?
It's not really much like it. Like I don't remember which came out first. I think maybe Josie and the Pussycats came out first, but
I think Josie was 2001.
Okay, so it was a couple years earlier. I think Cheetah Girls is 100% just inspired by like Destiny's Child and the making of like bands in general. I also think both of these movies, Brink and Cheetah Girls, has the exact same "don't be a sellout" trope that is very easy to follow, especially in a 90s early aughts kind of kids movie, for sure.
Yeah.
We haven't talked at all really much about Cheetah Girls, so I want to kind of jump in on that.
Yeah.
They made songs, but these songs were legitimate bops for the kids just about 5 to 10 years younger than me. Cheetah print was popular because of this movie. They built this franchise. There was only 3 movies, only 2 with Raven in it, but the third one still happened. But it's the story of like these 4 girls that are like absolutely doing it for themselves, right? They are building their brand. They're getting an audience, and then they are finding out that, oh no, someone wants to fully take advantage of you. And how do we fight that? Because money, we need money. Everyone needs money. Brink needed money too. Everyone needs money. I think it's like a women, girls empowering kind of movie that, even though upon my rewatch, I wasn't super into it, I respected it. I thought it was really smart, really important. And Brink is fine. I have no problem with Brink. I love a sports movie, but I think this holds better in hearts overall.
Okay, so you're voting for Cheetah Girls?
I am.
Okay. Trey, where are you on this one? Brink or Cheetah Girls?
Now, like, Cheetah Girls did transcend what the Disney Channel and like what DCOMs are. There were 3 of the 4 of our top 4 had at least 2 sequels, including this one. And you've got some really lovely girl power characters in this. But I think I'm going to throw it to Brink because like it is just so Disney Channel.
Well, so it's a final 2 of Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century versus Brink. I'm grateful that you did not make me do a single tiebreaker for this entire episode, so thank you for that. I'm going to start in the middle of the pack with Joelle. It's Brink or it's Zenon? What are you voting for?
Oh, no, it's not Brink. It's Zenon.
Okay.
100 bajillion% Cetus Lapidus, Eric.
Cetus Lapidus, I don't know her. Bob, is it Brink or Zenon?
One other thing that DCOMs do better than any other is they take young female characters, they give them agency and representation. Both of these movies are great. I see them on an even keel, is enjoyable and all of those things, but I'm leaning Zenon because I think it just does a really great job from the very beginning of establishing that for DCOM, and it's just a great movie and a lot of fun. So right. Zenon.
Awesome. Trey, is it Zenon or Brink?
For the drama, for the lingo, for the fashion, we're going to go with Zenon.
All right,
the side pony. Let's not forget the side pony.
We love a side
Zenon.
pony.
And all that vinyl latex outfit.
Vinyl skirts and everything, yes.
And Amma, it's to you. Is it Brink or is it Zenon?
It's Zenon. It's Zenon, and even though it is a final 2 that is ostensibly close, it's Zenon and it's not close.
All right, folks.
Zoom.
And there you have it. Our pick for the best Disney Channel original movie is Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century. Do you agree? Do you think we should be grounded back to earth? Tell us how you really feel by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Mastodon. While you're there, make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you hear about what new debates are coming soon, vote in open polls, and even decide which topics we tackle next. If you really enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to like and rate it on whatever platform you listen on. I want to say thank you to my panel. You really do make this a sweet life. And thank you for listening. Huge thank you to the panelists who helped my no DCOM knowledge mouth write this script. If you loved what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get even more exclusive content and get episodes a whole day early. We hope you have a good one. And remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion. Cetus Lapidus.